welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about should you be doing an F3 year or not. If you are wondering what is an F3 year, it basically just means that you are going to complete your foundation years, which is F1 and F2, and then you opt for an F3 year, which is essentially an added year. People say it's an F3, but essentially it's just a trust grade post and you are not opting for a training number. There can be several reasons of why you've chosen to do an F3. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of an F3 year. And then you can make your decision whether it's something that you should be considering or not. So if you're an IMG, which is an international medical graduate, you're already doing an F3 post. By that, I mean F3, as I said, it's a trust grade post, it's a non-training post. So this video might not be very helpful to you in terms of what definition it is, but it might still be useful to you if you want to know how you can utilize this year. So there are many reasons where people would like to do an F3 year. Some want some stability because, as I said, in each training program, regardless of it being foundation, you will have to rotate every 3 or 4 months in a different department, and sometimes it's in different hospitals, so you might have to relocate as well. This obviously does not happen if you're doing an F3 post, because essentially you are again locally employed and you're going to be working in one department and that's it. So you don't have to really relocate or change your accommodation, all of that stuff which happens in training. Another pro about being an F3 is that you don't have an ARCP at the end of the year. I haven't made a video about ARCPs yet, but for those of you who've done foundation year and have gone through it, you must know how hard it is to actually have everything on your portfolio for an ARCP. And obviously an F3 is a year which gives you that freedom where you don't have to do everything that is required of a trainee, and it's still a job and you still have a title, so you kind of feel a bit in the loop but not in the loop. It's a very kind of relaxed situation if you actually choose to do an F3. Another reason why people do it is because they are doing some form of an academic degree or they want to finance themselves, and obviously when you're doing that you have more opportunities in terms of jobs. So as an F3 you are more likely to be able to do more locums because you don't have to do portfolio stuff, you don't have to do MSFs, MTRs, all of that crap that comes with training, and you have more time to focus on yourself, and therefore you can do an extra degree in that time period if you want. You can do a certification, you can do a diploma, you can even focus on certain things that you actually want to do in terms of improving your portfolio. Speaking of portfolios, a lot of people have asked this question whether doing an F3 actually sort of negatively impacts your portfolio. It doesn't. It all depends on how you've utilized your F3. Obviously, if you're using this extra year to travel the world and explore and have a chill time and relax, then you will be having nothing on your portfolio. But if you are somebody who is doing this, who's choosing to stay out of training because A, they didn't get into training, and B, they didn't want to apply for training before having a really good portfolio. And this is a very, very golden time. It's a year that you can utilize to gain things that you don't have in your portfolio. Things like, again, as I mentioned, an extra degree, a really, really good QIP, which you've not been able to do during training. So you've just done snapshots. But now you have a place where you're not rotating from, so you can actually do a very good QIP. You can actually do a very, very good audit project. Or even if your trust allows, you can actually be a part of a research project. You can work on publications, case reports, all of that stuff when you obviously are not running from department to department. If you're in just one single department, everybody knows you, and getting these extra things signed off or getting these extra things done is quite easy. I wouldn't say easy, obviously it requires hard work, but still it's relatively easier than if you are, say for example, doing a QIP project in anesthetics department and suddenly you're now rotated in a medical department and you're still doing your QIP project in the anesthetics department. So you can imagine how difficult it could become if you're rotating so many times. So obviously this year, this extra year that people use, it becomes quite beneficial mentally and physically, and I would say emotionally as well. Now obviously if you found this video because you didn't get into training, and it's absolutely fine, it's okay to do an F3. People do locum shifts as well. Some people locum for an entire year. The only reason I want to bring up this topic in this video is that a lot of people who locum for the entire year forget the fact that they actually have to have an appraisal. An appraisal is something which is mandatory by GMC. So if you are choosing to do an F3, I would suggest doing a trust rate F3 is better than doing a locum F3. It obviously depends on your financial condition, what you want to do. But if you are doing a trust rate F3, it's highly likely for you to be given a supervisor and then obviously have an appraisal through the trust. If you're doing a locum F3, then it is very difficult for you to find a supervisor who will then do an appraisal and then sign you off for the appraisal for the year. A lot of people struggle with this, and therefore I thought it would be good to mention here. Now let's talk about some of the negatives which people think are negative, but in my opinion, they actually depend on you whether you think of them as negative or not. The first thing is obviously you're not in training. And a lot of people who have this sort of a box mindset might consider it a very big risk to not directly apply into training. So when you're doing your F2 years, and if you're not aware of the UK training system, you have to apply in November to actually start your training post August next year. And a lot of people who don't have a lot of things in their portfolio at that time just don't apply at all. I would advise against it. Even if you feel like you have nothing in your portfolio and you want to do an F3, do it. Absolutely, I support that. But still apply for the training program that you are intending to actually enter, because this cycle is going to teach you how to apply, how to navigate through the Oriel system, how to actually appear in an interview if you actually get one. You never knew, you might actually get into training. But going through the process during your F2 year is definitely very, very helpful, even if you have considered doing an F3. People think that it's a negative. If you are not opting to apply for training, then you might be losing a year and you might be, out of training and out of progression and all of that stuff that people tend to say. But in my opinion, in my personal experience, I don't feel that it is an important thing for you to consider years, because I have previously mentioned several times on my channel as well that your timeline is your timeline. So to me, I don't think having an extra year before you get into a training specialty, which is going to be 7 years or 8 years, depending on how you do it, is a negative thing, because what's bad about not having to chase after people for your MSFs or do a QIPN audit every single rotation or take exams or rotate every few months or relocate and be less paid, what's so good about that? So to me, yes, an F3 is definitely something that doesn't have any negatives, in my opinion, if you utilize it well. Obviously, I'm not saying that do an F3 and just have good time, don't do that. Obviously, if you're going to apply for something which is very, very competitive, you might actually end up doing an F3, not out of choice, but out of necessity. And therefore, you should be able to utilize your F3 years in a way that you're able to apply for a training post. So I hope this video was helpful. I know I haven't told you whether you should or you shouldn't do an F3, but I feel like after knowing all the aspects and the facts about doing an F3 year, you will be able to understand better whether you are suited to do an F3 or not, especially for somebody who has a mindset where you have to be in a treadmill rotating wheel cycle all the time. You might feel very, very negative being in an F3 post, because everybody's going to ask you, why did you apply for training, or did you not get into training? And if you are that kind of person, then maybe F3 is not for you. But for other people who feel like, yes, I can take a break, I want to take a break, I want to be able to rest a little bit before I start my training years again, it's a very good option. And I don't think that it has any sort of consequences in terms of your career. If you use the time well and if you actually manage to rest, you might feel more rejuvenated to enter a training program. And on that, I will be ending this video. I hope that you guys have a nice day. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.